If Drogo was alive, we wouldn't have that boring pit stop Daenerys took in Meereen. But more importantly, the entire story would be completely different. Drogo's wound, becoming infected, was the cause of Dany asking help from the angry witch. The witch's blood magic led to Dany's stillbirth, and eventually the death of Drogo and the birth of Dany's dragons. Just imagine Game of Thrones without dragons. That's exactly the story you would have if he survived. But how would their war to retake the Iron Throne go down? Dany's dragons would still be just stone eggs, so their army would be without their most powerful asset. Her eggs hatching was only a freak accident that happened because of all the fire magic that was involved in that moment. Khal Drogo's khalasar is nothing to be underlooked though. The Dothraki are skilled fighters and travel in massive numbers. Drogo had the largest khalasar out of all the Khals, and I'm pretty sure it was around 50,000 Dothraki. Drogo wasn't a complete fool. He would have took out all the other Khals to absorb their armies, just like what Dany did in Season 6. That would double their size to around 100,000. Their stubbornness stops them from wearing armor, which puts them at a huge disadvantage against the knights in Westeros. Not only would they be missing out on some overpowered dragons that can pretty much take out an entire army of their own, but it's unlikely they would have the Unsullied and Second Sons part of her army. The Unsullied are arguably the most skilled fighters for hire, and there were 8,000 of them. It's already starting to look like Drogo dying only helped her cause. If he were alive, their son Rhaego would have been born at the end of the first season, and they would have easily got their hands on enough ships to start sailing early into the second season. When the Dothraki want something, they either take it forcefully, and if they can't do that, they'll trade with their slaves instead. They have never crossed the Narrow Sea, so their trip would definitely not go smoothly. During this time, the War of Five Kings was happening, so all that chaos might have helped them out. There would have been no chance of the Dothraki taking a united Westeros. Sir Barristan wasn't around at this time to advise Dany, but Ser Jorah was. He would have most likely advised her to land in Dorne. The Martells would be happy to align with the Targaryens again to take out the Lannisters from power. If you guys remember, it was Tywin who had Aelia Martell, who was married to Rhaegar Targaryen, killed along with their children during Robert's rebellion. That would make Aelia Daenerys' sister-in-law, since Rhaegar was her much older brother. Dorne's army would add around another 20,000 to their army. It's unlikely any other house or kingdom would join some Dothraki brutes to try to take the Iron Throne. There would be no way Varys wouldn't have gotten word of this, and it would have completely changed up the war. There's no chance Stannis would agree to let Renly rule, but I think eventually Renly would know the only way to survive would be to side with his older brother to take out the Lannisters and then eventually the Dothraki. I think Stannis would have never made the Shadow Baby to murder his brother, and they would combine armies. Back then, Renly was married to Marjorie, so the Reach backed Renly. The Reach has the largest population in Westeros, and also the most fighters, around 70,000. The North and Riverlands would back the Baratheons, and my guess would be the Vale would once again stay out of this war. But with their numbers, Catelyn could possibly persuade her sister to aid them. With their armies so large, Walder Frey and Roose Bolton would never think of betraying Robb Stark and Catelyn. If Drogo were alive, the Red Wedding would have never happened. They would still be assholes, but they wouldn't be dumb enough to go against a huge alliance. The Lannisters do have large numbers under them, around 40,000, and a few more thousand from the Crown Lands, but that's like a fifth of what the Baratheons would have in their alliance. I know numbers aren't everything, but when the difference is this drastic, it means everything. Drogo's existence wouldn't do much to change the Ironborn. They're always going to be a nuisance to any group. Teaming up with the Lannisters would help, but during Season 2, 3, and 4, Cersei didn't have the power she has now. Balon or Euron marrying Cersei wouldn't interest the Greyjoys. The Dothraki, with the Dornishmen, could maybe defeat the Lannisters, but both would be taken out by the Baratheon Bros and crew. A lot of you might disagree that Renly would step aside, but remember that back then, their only enemy was the Lannisters. Going against them and Dothraki would mean both would die. So if Drogo never died from that infection, it wouldn't have been too long before he and the rest of his khalasar would be killed. They would give a good fight, but in the end, it would have been for nothing. and it's not like they would let Daenerys get away with her dragon eggs. With her dead, eventually everyone would be killed off. The real threat is the Night's King and all the White Walkers. With no dragons around, they lose the best chance they had. Pretty crazy how one man's life can change so much in a world, real or fiction. It's too bad they couldn't be satisfied by the insane amount of wealth and power they would have remaining in the Dothraki Sea, living a happy life together. If you want to see my last video, 9 things to remember before Season 7, you can click on the annotation or in the link in the description. Thanks for watching.